It's a
Uh,
Friday.
are we
It's a
recording?
challenge
I
day.
don't see
We are right
recording.
now. I hope so.
Yeah, there we. Okay.
Are we? Good.
Yeah,
Double
I
check,
see it.
triple check. For those of you in the back, can you hear us? Are you able to see this? So yeah, I've done that like a couple of times lately where I like panic 5 minutes in. I'm like, oh, good, it is. I don't see the button, the record light right away. So I need something more obvious. So, yep. So here we are. We'll just dive right in. I am Rob. I'm going to introduce myself. You guys should know that by now. But if not, there is, what did I say? 622 other episodes out here of YouTube videos. Actually, I guess this may be a 623 or something like that, give or take a couple. Lots of content. One of the founders of Developinor, also the founder of RB Consulting, where we help you do a reality check for technology before you step into that big project. Before you spend a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of resources, we help you make sure that you're doing the right thing, that you've got your ducks in a row so that one, you don't waste your time building out a solution you don't need, and two, you have something that's actually in place so that as your company grows, your company doesn't grow too fast for your systems. Good thing and bad thing. Good thing is it is a Friday. It has been a week. It has been a long week, working in different time zones and across a lot of different time zones with customers now from Hong Kong all the way back around to the States in various time zones. And it's just been really fun. So after a week like this, I am ready for a Friday and ready to look forward to our challenge for today, which is going to be really fun because I did not look right beforehand to see who it is that we talked to this week. So Michael's hopefully going to send me that while somewhere around when he is introducing himself.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Mosh. I'm one of the co-founders of Developinor, Building Better Developers. I'm also the founder of Envision QA, where we create reliable, tailored software that helps you work smarter, scale faster, and stay in control. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing, my plumbing issues are fixed. No more leaky pipes. Bad thing is I was not prepared for this challenge, so let me quickly find that for you. Any tidbits or any little things you did this week while I find that for you real quick?
Yes, I can vamp. In my past, I have improv skills, and those sometimes come very, very much in handy. I will say, keep an eye out for those you check out the Developinor site, but actually, if you haven't find the Developinor page out on LinkedIn, you can actually connect to either one of us. Michael Balash and Rob Broadhead are both not too hard to find. You can also find Developinor. There's not a ton of that. So check it out because we do have a lot of great conversations outside of this podcast and YouTube channel that we are doing. I had some great discussions with, we talked a lot about Agile lately. We had a good demo call, Michael and I did. I think we're going to have him on our somewhere down the line. He's going to be a guest. I also had a call today with the, gosh, now I forget what the name of the podcast is. I've got to go look that one up, but have a great conversation today. It should be out in the next couple of weeks. And a lot of these have just been, we're finding the same kind of issues that probably you were running into, is that, sometimes there's the latest thing, the latest shiny object, which these days is AI, is not really all it's cracked up to be. That being said, I have done a lot with it and been very happy with it. It is definitely, 3, 4, 10xing our company and some of the things we can do. It's improving a lot of our regular processes. And as a person that at heart is a developer, it is awesome because I'm cranking out a bunch of scripts, a lot of utilities, and then a lot of core functionality based on that is allowing me to get my stuff done faster. Definitely shoot me an email if you have questions about that. We've got we just did a nice little blurb about, what was it? Oh, just did a blurb about pulling down all of the podcast episodes. Actually, this is through AI. Very quickly was able to take a problem, which was we had a huge catalog of we still do of over 900 episodes, and using AI, it's like, you know what? I bet it can help me build something to go bring all that stuff down, do the transcripts, get summaries, and get us to the point where we actually have a solid database of knowledge that is properly tagged and all that kind of good stuff, so we can search it and we can find information a lot faster. By we, I'm mostly meaning Michael, because he's the one that's usually having to look for this kind of stuff when I drop all these little like, oh yeah, we talked to so and so, and he has to go figure out who so and so is and where that occurred. Now we're going to be able to do that. And we also are bringing down, we don't have in that case study. Also, I've got something that's bringing down all of the YouTube episodes as well, which is why I happen to know we have like 600 and something of them, because it gave me a count when it was starting to run and pull that information down. These are the kinds of things that AI will do for you, is the things where you said, man, I would love to be able to have that data at my fingertips. If you define it properly, you can get it to help you to do that. Now, I am, blowing way ahead of the cart ahead of the horse a little bit with some of that stuff, because you need to understand the problem. You need to understand what the solution looks like. But once you do, it will help you get the job done. Like spending a lot of time talking, because now Michael has sent me who we talked to this week, I think.
Yeah, which was actually interesting, because this was the discussion. Where did it just go? I just had it.
Oh, so this is with Matt Soltau. Okay.
Yeah, so we talked about a lot about AI with this one too. So this was actually a good little vamp lead up to this one.
And this was really so I know I've talked to Matt, full disclosure, I guess. I've talked to Matt a couple of times. I think I talked to him before this episode. We talked to him as a guest, and I've now talked to him a couple of times since then. Really good guy as far as understanding what's going on, as sort of understanding the big picture of what technology is like that's out there. Very key is that he and I are very simpatico in the whole AI readiness world, and that you have a lot of really cool tools. You can spend a lot of money on it, but if you're not ready, it's not going to work. It's not about the tools. It's not about AI. It is about getting the processes right first. So, if it's broken, AI is not going to fix it. It's just going to amplify it. Now, I had a couple of different areas that were interesting to this conversation with Matt, is because of what they're doing, is that the SaaS product that they have, the things that they're building are really about gathering data. So it's one of these things that they're very much in a readiness position. It's before you get into all this other AI and automation and all the cool things you can do, you've got to have a good foundation. And that is where this conversation started, is it's like, hey, you've got to know what the data types are. What are your vendors? I think he was one that threw out a number of like, typical companies have 100 to 150 systems that they're dealing with. And so that's a lot to integrate and put together and try to get those things on the same page. So it's not a small lift to do an ERP system or get a enterprise level CRM or something like that put together. So this was really a fun conversation. Now, hopefully I've given Michael enough time to look through the notes as well and provide some of your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so this one, in fact, I recently had a conversation with someone about utilizing AI within our processes. And the biggest problem there is they're like, oh, it's just a shiny tool. It's not really useful. And like kind of how you laid out in the beginning of this, there's pros and cons to using AI right now. And our discussion with Matt really brings up a lot of the things we've continuously talked about with AI. One of the biggest things being garbage in, garbage out. If companies don't have the right policies and procedures in place, if they don't really have any guidance for how they actually build their software, how they manage their data, turning it over to AI is just going to amplify the problem. It's going to make it worse, and it's not going to, you're going to spend more time cleaning up the mess you just made with AI versus just spending the time beforehand and then trying to use the AI. The interesting thing about what I really liked about the conversation with him is what they've been working on, what they've been building on, and what they're seeing with the software as a service is just the number of failures because companies don't follow this plan, that they don't take the time to look at their infrastructure first. And I know we've kind of beaten this horse to death, but this is something, if you are looking to use AI, the conversation with Matt was very enlightening. I would go back and watch it if you haven't, and just really look at all the points he discusses. And we go into more detail with that. But the highlights are simply make sure you have a plan. Look at what it is that your company is doing. Again, figure out your why. What is it that you are trying to accomplish? What is your product? Who is your target market? What are the solutions that you're trying to deliver? What type of data do you have? What type of integrations do you have? What type of third parties do you have? And then really lay out a high level architecture if you don't have it already. Then start looking at, okay, where can we plug AI into this? Don't just throw the whole thing into AI, but look for small wins. Start with small automation pieces. Like, okay, are we generating reports constantly that people have to manually do that? Look at using AI to start that. Slowly plug AI in, get your team accustomed to it, and then start going after the larger initiatives to kind of shift over to a more AI-driven approach.
Yeah, it's very much a baby steps kind of thing. I think is going to be good for most. And actually had a conversation with somebody about this. Is that it's if you're going into it with your head on straight, it's scary because you have this you have potentially, especially now with some of the automations and stuff like that are out there. The agentic stuff is that AI can just like go off and get running. And if you're not comfortable with where your stuff is, if you don't have the comfort to say, yeah, make it happen, then you need to make sure what it is and yes, and what happens means and all of those other pieces. And so you need to start with, I think it's very much a thing that if you're not very process oriented, if you don't have a well documented organization that everybody knows what's going on, that is, they keep things up to date, then this is a good time to do it. Pick an area. You don't have to do the whole company at once. Pick something small, something that is easy, that is measurable, that you can put guardrails around. Usually that you can also compare, if best, that you can compare some sort of manual results to whatever the AI results are. So you can go do it manually a couple of times, have AI run through it, give you some dry runs, give you some data and say, okay, make sure that you have an apples to apples result. Because if you don't, you can end up doing a lot of cleanup. Now, yeah, AI can clean it up. I know some places that they're just like, okay, well, I'll just keep telling the AI to clean it and clean it and clean it. But then the next thing you know, you're in a real mess because you didn't just design the thing right the first time around. Instead, you were spending too much time in a lot of different areas and saying, okay, well, I didn't clarify that, so I guess I'll just let AI fix it. That doesn't work. Like I said, if it's broken, AI is just going to make it worse. And so just having it come in and fix it, because telling AI to just fix what you just did, there are ways to do incremental improvements, but you've got to make sure that you're designing it in a way that the incremental improvements make sense. I do want to talk about one of the things that we got into a little bit more with him that we haven't is this conversation got a little bit more into things like regulations and security and some of those kinds of things. Is that AI is nice and can do some cool stuff, but a lot of people are throwing their data out to the clouds that they really shouldn't. And so this is one of those things that I'm glad that he brought up, where it's like, hey, you've got to, you need to put guardrails, you need to have constraints around this stuff, because if you don't, the next thing you know, you've got employees that are sending data out to ChatGPT and Gemini, and all of your most important, critical, or maybe even like, HIP related data or something like that is floating out in the cloud where it should not be. He also was like, and last one that I want to throw back to you is he was talking about real-time data for AI accuracy. This is another one that as I think more about it, because a lot of times you'll see people now are talking about having an AI operating system for their company. Their organization has an operating system and it's AI driven because that's like the cool thing to do, but that's really what it is. We're doing that as well. We're building, we call it, some people call it a second brain. Zuckerberg, I think, has famously got a second brain that he's using. That's one of the AIs to eat from their own dog bowl or whatever it is. But whether it's a second brain or an operating system, it needs to be, because it's your business, it needs to be able to upgrade. You need to be able to do new versions and enhancements and things like that. If you build all of your processes out and you don't do feedback into that system, then it's going to end up withering on the vine like everything else. You have to keep it up to date, and AI even more so, because it's really easy to just let it go. When you have automations, you can just let them run and let them run. But if you're not paying attention to them, then they can end up essentially becoming out of date because your business has moved on. So thoughts on that?
Yeah, so especially the real-time data, we were talking about the real-time data. The interesting thing about that was one of the situations he was talking about where, companies, AI works in the silo, it works in development, like everything they're building with it works with the data that they're providing it. But then when they turn it over to production, they turn it on live, it fails because they're not really using real data. The data itself could be clunky, it could be ugly, it's not pristine. So they didn't test apples to apples. So when you flip the switch, oops, now all of a sudden it's not working. They're blaming AI when in reality, it's not AI, it's your data. You need to understand when it is AI's fault and when it is your data, your policies and procedures. So you really need to make sure that you not only do you have the sandbox for testing this, but you do I guess, quote unquote, soft rollout of AI to your production environment. Either spin up a second instance and kind of run it through production data in its own silo. But you do need to actually test with real data. You can't just simulate the data and hope everything's going to work. Again, the other thing he touched on that we didn't talk about here is with depending upon your industry too, you have to be careful with the AI around governance, around compliance. You don't want to put data in the AI, especially in non-private tools that expose PII or credit card information or sensitive information. You want to make sure that those are enclosed systems and that they're either encrypted, protected, or basically you're not putting it out there and exposing risks to your customers. So as he said, think ahead, design for the worst case scenarios, but you need to understand what it is that you're building, what your target is, and then once you have a plan, then poke holes in the plan and try and come up with the worst case possible situation and work backwards to plug those holes.
I do like how he uses the phrase very regularly. He talks about the plumbing, about integrations being the plumbing of AI, and I think that is something that we miss sometimes. It's too easy for us as developers and even as business owners and that to focus on the end results. Is just the data is the data, and not to think about the fact that the data has to actually go through a system or multiple systems before, from inception to final reporting or metrics or anything like that. And it's just like plumbing in general. If you've got pipes that are, that are leaky, that are crammed up, that are, fall apart easy, all kinds of stuff like that, then you're going to have issues. And your migrations, your data flow is going to be the same thing. If you have poorly defined data, the worst thing you can get is there's a lot of places where you have this very loosely defined data. Nobody's validated it in the past. Nobody's put any guardrails around it, so that you end up having things like a status that's a string that's written 16 different ways, and somebody's got a typo or something like that, the system, which it was okay if a human read it and said, oh, okay, this is actually just a misspelling. That's fine. I can correct it. I can move forward. AI is not necessarily going to pick that up. And sometimes it'll pick it up in the wrong way. I have had more than a few times that I've tried to send something through and say, well, okay, clean this up for me. What do you see? And it'll go in directions I never would have thought it would. But once you look at it, you go, oh, okay, I see. It's taking a different tact. It's looking at the pattern differently from what we do. And you end up in a situation where, like you said, the problem is you need to as best you can, test against real data. And then when you go into production, just know that the odds are it's not going to work out, that there's going to be bugs, there's going to be issues, there's going to be outliers, and you do what you can beforehand. But before you let AI just go, run full steam ahead, you need to make sure that you give it the proper respect to like slow roll it out. Make sure that you're keeping an eye on it, and even once you're pretty comfortable with it, you should still be keeping an eye on it. Make sure that it's logging stuff, make sure that it's firing stuff back in, make sure that you're getting the notifications you need to. And I would honestly say, even though I don't know everybody agrees with this, it's like I think you almost always have to have some level of human intervention. It doesn't have to be all the time, but you could just do, and it's like call centers. Yeah, yes, they can record every call, but they don't listen to every call. They listen to every third call or every 10th call, depending on who the rep is and things like that. It should be the same thing with data. You should still be looking at it periodically just to be like, okay, is this thing running right? Is this going good? And if you've got some markers for it as well to know what your variances are or some of the expectations, that'll help if something goes very wrong. But still, I think that you've got to trust but verify. It's just like the old Cold War slogan there, is that you can let it go, but you're going to have to make sure that you're checking it along the way, unless you don't care about it. But if you don't care about it, then you probably shouldn't be wasting the time putting AI to it anyways.
Well, and the other thing too is test and verify. Always test and verify. The interesting thing I run into with AI a lot is I'll have it build something or have it solve a problem. It generates the code. It generates the tests. Then I go out and I'll try to test it. And if it's not working, some of the key things I've started learning is even after I have it build the code or the solution or build the test, I say, okay, now tell me what it is that you just did. You can do this in one of two ways. You can ask it to do that and it'll give you some markdown. But interestingly enough, when I'm done asking for a code change or a test or something like that, I ask it to generate me the AI prompt to generate what I just asked. And it's really cool because it is almost building you the ticket for that change. Like you could almost literally copy the requirements from that and put it into your change control ticket. But what it highlights is, what did AI hear you say? What did it actually try to implement? And what did it try to test? And the funny thing is, sometimes it will say it did that and it didn't do that. So what I'll do is I'll say, here's the prompt. And then like, okay, based on the prompt you just gave me, go check what you just did. And does it match what you just gave me? And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they'll say, oops, I missed this. And it'll go make a change. And usually that change will fix whatever, get me to wherever I was trying to get to. Usually, if you do it this way, if you get really good with the prompts and you get really good with the checks and balances, you can normally get AI to do something for you in a couple minutes versus, okay, build it, then go spend 10, 15, 20 minutes trying to figure out if what it built worked. If you do this in like 5 or 6 minutes of just checking the prompts, checking some validations, getting that requirements, and then go validating that, you can probably do the whole thing in about 15 minutes. Depending on the scope. Yeah,
it depends on the scope. I mean, it comes down to it really comes down to you spend the time up front. You spend the time designing, walking through, assessing your design. You can use AI sometimes to do that, to say, hey, what am I missing? What did I forget? But really the goal is, and this is why I think all of us need to up our game, is that it's really not about prompt engineering and stuff like that. It's about defining requirements. It's about talking about your why. It's about making sure that you're clear on what are the inputs, what are the outputs, what are the expectations, what are the exceptions maybe that you're going to have, what sort of notifications do you want to have. These things are all great. Now, yes, you can use it as a rapid application development kind of environment where you can like crank something out, you can do a test, you can crank it out, you can walk your way into the solution. But usually you're going to be way better if from the start you say, these are the things I need. And then you're going to have to tell it also it's because of context, you're going to have to walk it through. It's just like, it'd be like doing sprints, as you can go define an entire product. And then each sprint, you're going to have certain tasks that you want the team to do. So you say, okay, go do this. All right, now that we've got this, let's test it. Let's verify it. And that's very key, is as you're going through iterations, or as you break it up, is put some testing in there, do some validation, do something that's going to verify that, yes, this is where it should be, and this is giving me the inputs and the outputs that I should, which usually means back to requirements. You have to be very, very clear on what is expected to be the input and the output each step of the way, and design it that way, so you know that, like, this is the journey of my data. This is what it's going to look like. This is how it interacts between all of the different, steps in that pipeline that is the plumbing for the application itself. If you do that, then you're going to increase your chances for success a lot. If it's, yes, you can iterate if you want, but if you do it, you're going to be generating, there's always going to be junk code. There's going to be stuff that gets lost. There's going to be technical debt somewhere in there that you're going to have to worry about. There's going to be misses. It's like everything else, is you want to make sure that you have a very well-defined problem. Let's make sure we get the solution. Let's validate it, and then you can move forward with it. It's everything else. Do it first manually, then repeat it a couple of times, and then worry about being able to automate it, and then eventually go on to AI, which is really just that next level beyond automation. If you don't know how to automate it, then don't even think about AI yet. So
yeah, I mean, agreed. But a lot of companies aren't starting from scratch. A lot of companies have a lot of existing legacy code in that, and they're going to start plugging into this, which is why I was saying it may be better to take the small iterative approach, take small pieces, and just test. That's, unfortunately, that is where you are going to have to get good with prompt management and working with the code, because some of the legacy code you don't know, and you're going to have to figure it out. And sometimes you have that knowledge gap. So there are pros and there are pros and cons to that we're going to have to figure out throughout this process. I mean, in a perfect world, we can just start with, the best requirements, the best plan, the best workflows, and the great data. But in reality, a lot of the systems that are out there are ugly. They are not clean. They are very legacy, and in some cases, the people that initially wrote those aren't there anymore. So you don't even have that knowledge. So I still see we're kind of in between that process. It's like, yes, we want to do the right thing, but we are going to have to kind of fight our way to get there in some of these systems.
Well, there's always going to be a fight, but I think that the requirements are requirements. I don't think that is a perfect world scenario at all. Now, granted, you may start from a very messy start, so your requirements may be that you have a lot of data that you've got to go back through, a lot of code that you've got to sort through. These days, though, that's the nice thing, is AI can scream through code pretty quick, and you can say, okay, tell me what this stuff does, and it will give you, a rough idea, and it will get you there. If nothing else, it will get you faster than you digging through code. Good example the other day, I was cycling through stuff, cleaning up a bunch of code that was missing some pieces, and I was able to, the easiest way, because of context and stuff like that, the easiest way is actually one of those where you just essentially run it and it'll break, run it and it'll break. It's the old, compile it and it'll break there. And it was just, you fix one and then it's the next one and the next one and the next one. And with AI, I was able to very quickly grab the stack trace, throw it in there, and it says, okay, here's exactly where it is. Here's exactly where it is. And so instead of taking, 10 or 15 minutes per iteration of having to dig through everything and go find the file and where was that declared and change all that stuff up, it was able to very quickly say, boom, here it is. Here it is in the stack trace. You're off and running. This is the file. And I could go take it very quickly. A lot of times, here's the line. You can go in there and then you can go fix it. So there are ways for it to improve it. I think that it gives you more, there's more argument to say you can use these tools before you're automating your processes, you can use these tools, though, to help you figure out the requirements to build those processes. And whether it's bad, whether it's broken, whether it's legacy, all of that stuff still is there. It is still part of your requirement. So if you have a legacy system, if you've got an old VAX system that you've got to somehow get data out of into your modern Salesforce system, that is a requirement. And you're going to have to figure out how to tackle each of those steps along the way. And if you want to use AI to do some piece of it or some automation, that's all well and good, but you still then have to define each of those steps along the way to make sure that you know how does data get from point A to B to C all the way to Z. Because if you don't, if you start just throwing AI at it and say, okay, well, AI fix it, that's not going to get you there. You need to actually say, what does fixed look like? Basically, once you can give it that, you can say, this is what it is, but this is what it needs to look like on the other end. And then take it step by step. Like I said, take it a piece at a time. Take something that, particularly something that you can tightly define, that you understand, that you can test and verify, so that you can know that at least that piece is good, and then you can move on to something else. And if you don't know that that piece is good, don't move on to something else. It's like anything else. Like, build on stuff you know, instead of just doing the whole thing and then we test and go find out that nothing works, but we don't know how to figure out where the breaks are because we don't have any confidence in any of it. That being said, challenge of the week. There's a lot of ways we can go on this one. And I think we've done one before that reminds me of this, where we had the challenge of build requirements. Is like, take something that you do and actually write out the requirements for it. I think this one, I want to take something that's like that, but it's a little different, is take something that you do on a regular basis that you would like to get rid of, and instead of throw AI at it, how would you tell somebody to do that process? Write it out in you can do a markdown, you can do a Word doc, whatever it is that you want to do, text file, doesn't matter. But write down in English or whatever your favorite language is, words, write down, this is what it is. These are the steps. This is what I'm giving it, and this is what my expectation is. It could be as simple as, like I did, it could be as simple as I started with, I have a ton of podcast episodes that are sitting out in the cloud, and I want to be able to transcribe them and catalog them somewhere. So I knew I had a starting point and I had an end point. And then I started working on those. Well, okay, let's define the starting point a little bit more. Let's define the end point a little bit more. Building out that description of your problem and description of your solution is how you're going to get to better prompts. Now, you may end up with something huge that, AI is not going to be able to tackle it. But I think what you do is, if you can do that as this challenge, and then take it and drop it into your favorite AI and say, just ask it, like, how would you build me a solution for this? Or could you design the architecture for this? Or something along those lines, and see what it gives you, because that's going to help you verify and validate a little bit what you put together. Because if it gives you something that is completely amiss, or it's broken or misses the mark, then you need to go back to your requirements. I think this is a great way to do, to help you build requirements better, to help you better define problems, but also to define what the solution needs to look like. Because if you give AI one or the other, you're going to get some really weird stuff. You need to give it both. And this is and then find what it does, some things better than others. So find what it does best. And that is going to be your way forward if you need to use AI. If not, you may turn out to find out that you don't even, AI may have pointed you in the right direction. You're not using AI for that solution whatsoever. Then that's where a lot of these, I think, solutions are eventually going to go, is you can use AI as sort of a quick fix, but then you're going to want to long-term turn around and harden that a little bit more and put it into more traditional programs and scripts and applications and things of that nature. Thoughts on that challenge?
Yeah, I really like that. I know we've done it before, but it's still one of the best challenges to do, is to, go through this challenge, really look at what you have again. And like you said there at the end, though, maybe you look at hardening at the end. Go through the challenge, but then look and say, okay, here's what I've done. Where can I go with this, maybe? Because a lot of times we look at these challenges and we just focus on the challenge. We don't kind of sometimes we look forward past the challenge, but look at the challenge, but then look at what you can do with after that challenge. It's like, okay, I've learned this. Now what can I do with this? How can I apply this going forward?
Yeah, I think it's definitely it's a building block for the future. I think once you solve one of these problems, then and I know it has been for me. Every time I've solved one of these problems, I'm going, oh, I can go do this. That was the genesis of the pipeline, case study that we've got. Is initially I was just grabbing old recordings from customers because I wanted to document that better. I wanted to go back. I wanted to see if I could use old recordings, get a transcription of it, build a summary of it, and then build a nice little database of like, what have we discussed? It's what you see now in Zoom and all these other tools all the time. They come back and they summarize your calls. Well, for older stuff, things that was way before this AI craze came in, we just had recordings. So I was like, well, what do I do with those? That stuff is useful. I mentioned this before. I don't think I've done it on, mentioned on the recording, but like I took all of my statuses from the last 12 years, I guess it was, and rolled all of those through and actually processed all of those and did a big, super parser of that with AI and built summaries of like, what are all the things we've done? What were the tasks we've done? What is it? And turned it into now and then I flipped all that back into Markdown and JSON that can easily be can be utilized by AI. So now my local LLM, I've got an entire catalog of everything that we've done in the last 12 years for RB Consulting, all the customers, a lot of discussions, a lot of the projects, the statuses, the tasks, all that kind of stuff, so that we can say, well, what have we done? What did we do well? When did we work on this? What are some similar projects we've worked on? That kind of thing that is, you sort of have it in your head, but not really. You're not going to have it. It's going to take too long to think through it. You're going to forget things that you did, especially, a year or 5 or 10 years ago. And sometimes you're going to forget, when did I do that? Did I do it a year ago? Was it 5 years ago or 10 years ago? So this is like everything else. I think if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a developer, this should be gold to you. You should be able to just like start going, just start building stuff. But don't just jump into AI. It is start writing requirements, start figuring out problems that need to be solved, whether it's for yourself or whether it's for somebody else. And then write it all up. Don't write a lick of code until you've designed that sucker out, till you've put it all together, that you've said, this is what it needs to look like. This is what the solution looks like. This is going to help you no matter what, even if AI dies tomorrow, because there's still going to be a need for process design, for software design. This is just the software development lifecycle being done in your head as much as possible. So now you are a team of one, and feel free to make it more. Like, go talk to your friends and your families and people like that and say, okay, well, here's what I'm going to try to do, and how I think it should work, and allow them to help you, give you input onto those requirements. So I like this. I think this is something, and I love what you said, Michael, that it's don't stop there. This is one of those that like this should open doors for you. When you do this, you should be able to, as you're building these requirements out, as you're building these solutions, they should prompt you, pun intended, to do more, to like solve other problems, to grow, because that is what building better developers is all about, is that we learn to build the simple software and solve the simpler stuff. But as we move on, those become just second nature, and now we're able to use those as building blocks to build something greater. Closing thoughts?
Oh, have fun with this. So often we get stressed out with our day jobs or the challenges of the workday. Use this for fun, get back. We all do this because we love this. This is our passion. We like coding. We like solving problems. We like solutions. So keep it light, keep it fun, and, keep that passion going.
100%. So real quick, by the way, so it's not like this is thrown together pretty quickly, but this is a page that I've got to do some more stuff with it, but this is every episode in everything that we've done in YouTube. And so it's every episode. So then you get there, it's got a page for it. It tells you some of the basics about it. And then you can actually go and it'll go jump to YouTube to get you there. So I actually was able to grab everything and build this out. I'll do some more with it. I'm going to see if I can like get it to group some of these. but I was like, wow, this is actually not bad. And I'll do a little bit more branding on it, but I think we're going to end up having we'll have like on the site, we'll have like I don't know, library of all of our podcast episodes, which we have. And I may tweak that a little bit because now that I've got more information about it, I'll probably improve that side of it. We'll also have one for all of our YouTube stuff. And then I'm going to figure out how to pull all that in, what I want to do with that as far as pulling it into I'll pull it into an LLM, but I'd sort of like to figure out how to turn it into some sort of like little database thing that we can use and then just make it like accessible on the website. But this is one of those fun kind of things that I was like, oh, I bet I could do that. And it was like the YouTube one was crazy because it already will do that for you through the API. It's a little restrictive. It will randomly just say, okay, like 20 calls in, it's going to say, nope, I'm going to do an IP ban for a little bit. So it took me a while to get that one done because I had to bounce IPs a bunch through a VPN, but finally got it done. And I was amazed at what it did and how quick it pulled that stuff down. The podcast version of it, I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through. It's like, it is cranking and doing everything local. So it takes it a little bit longer because I'm just using it. And I usually just kick it off at night because it buries my machine. But yeah, I think we've got a couple of these things that we've always said that would be cool to have. Well, we're going to have them now. So, it's the kind of stuff to keep those ideas out there and fresh. And we'll talk more about it tomorrow, I guess. All right. I'll let you get to it. Have a good one. I'll send you this when I get a chance and we'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, Rob. Bye.
Yep. Bye.